Hello everyone, welcome to my podcast, where I'll be discussing how to stabilize the fluctuating gas prices in the United States. Over 2023, gas prices have been anything but sedentary, and over the past 5 years, gas prices have had a multitude of fluctuations as prices went as low as $1.94 in April of 2020 and as high as $5.03 in June of 2022. Based on the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Gasoline is extremely important for America as it is a major commodity due to the fact that around 91.7% of households in America have at least one car, as seen by Valentine. And it serves as a major role in American trade as America is the largest producer of this commodity, as seen by the Council of Foreign Relations. For instance, when the global crude oil price increases, the market will see a shift in consumer behavior alongside an increase in inflation, which will occur, as seen by Foreman. So the anatomy of the gas prices are that about 50% of the gas prices are decided over the crude oil price globally, so just what other countries are selling it as. 25% of it comes from the refining cost, so the cost of paying off the refineries and the cost of just sending the oil to the refinery and having it refined. 11% of the cost comes from distribution and marketing, and 14% of it comes from federal and in-state taxes. And so a solution that I'm proposing is a three-part solution where we need oil independence, we need to alleviate the gas prices, and we need to increase the internal production within the United States. For oil independence, the United States, Canada, Brazil, Norway, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Nigeria are all major extractors of oil and exporters of oil. When you look at the amount of production per group, you can see that about 27% comes from North America, with 20% coming from America and 6% coming from Canada, with and 15% coming from the Commonwealth of Independent States, which is former Soviet republics that have come together for an economic pact, and that allows them to sell oil at a consistent price between all of them. And with the rest, a staggering 50% coming from OPEC and their conspirators, which includes Saudi Arabia, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Kuwait, with only about 8% coming from the rest of the world. This means that if OPEC wanted to increase the price of gas, they could just increase their own price, and everyone else would have to bring up their prices to match what they're doing. And America needs to stop this blandishment to the multinational organizations and to enable them to move forward and to not have to suffer such problems with gas. And so another large problem is that the U.S. cannot produce enough of its own oil. The U.S. produces about 18.4 million barrels of oil a day and consumes about 18.12 million barrels of oil a day, but it has to import 7.84 million barrels of oil a day. This comes due to a problem with U.S. oil refineries and how they're not able to process their own oil and rely on outside oil to come in so that they can fully process it due to different types of oil mixing. Another problem is that our oil refineries won't solve all of the problems. Like if we just build more, it will cause massive problems because each oil refinery costs about $25 billion and they're all privately owned. So if we don't have government subsidization for these new oil refineries, it would lead to massive economic downturn and would ravage the companies involved and would make it to where the overall price of oil would heighten for a very long time before it eventually went down. And companies don't want to do this because it leads to really bad short-term profits. And if something bad were to happen in the economy, it could lead to the company going completely bankrupt. And we don't want that if we want more refineries. So the government would have to step in and would have to give the companies at least some money to help subsidize for what's happening. Why can I not scroll? And then on the top of internal production, about 60% of the people believe that Wall Street is to blame for the United States not producing enough oil, while 11% of people believe it's environmental problems, and with 8% of people believing that it's social or governmental issues. And so this shows how the people really don't believe in our ability to make oil. And a massive issue is that we need government money to be able to create more refineries and to update the refineries that we currently have. The upfront cost of new refineries is too much compared to upgrading old refineries from a company's standpoint. And so without the increase in government money, there would be no new refineries and only updating of old ones. But the updated old ones won't be able to produce quite as high quality or quite as much as newer built ones. And another thing that was talked about would be gas rebates. So gas rebates are a more temporary solution to help alleviate the stress of gas prices on families, but it also helps to stabilize and lower the gas prices. Gas rebates work by giving families a certain amount of money that they're allocated to spend on gas. As you can see, it ranges from $350 to $1,050 depending on the household situation. And so these gas rebates can help to create an incentive to drive less, which will in turn cause the gas to be used less. Though, however, they can only work in suburban and rural areas because in big cities with public transportation, there would be no advantage and the citizens would just be taking the money from the government when they could be using public transportation such as subways or buses. Another really important thing that should be emphasized are gas-efficient cars. So more fuel-efficient cars can always be a way that consumers can help to alleviate the stress of the gas prices because more fuel-efficient vehicles will allow for less consumption of gasoline per person, and with less consumption comes the lowering of the gas prices since the demand for it is going down. And cars that would be a really good example of this would be something like the Toyota Prius, the Toyota Corolla, and the Honda Civic, which are all really good fuel-efficient cars that get north of 30 miles a gallon, while bigger trucks and SUVs such as Suburbans and Ford F-250s can only get upwards of 20 miles a gallon. And the 20 to 30 mile a gallon is a large gap in between there. So driving bigger vehicles that chuck a lot of gas can cause there to be less supply and more need for gas, which will cause the price to go up and never really stabilize over time. If there were more fuel-efficient cars, however, there would be less demand for fuel and better fuel economy would help to stabilize the gas. Overall, I feel that these different things being implemented, being the government helping to subsidize for oil refineries, emphasizing more gas-efficient cars, the implementation of gas rebates, and the government really just trying to get their own oil and gas figured out would be the best way for the United States to start to produce its own oil and to become oil independent and no longer depend on OPEC and other countries for our oil supply. Thank you very much. This is Daniel Luthner-Berno.